Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the brief, July 28th, Tuesday, where we're going to invest with military precision. Make sure for those folks that are new in the room to go ahead and put a call sign in there. And so you come up as you're anonymous during the chat. And if you don't do it, we'll have our tech here help you out with the call sign. So if you see your name change, that is why. For those catching us on replay, thanks for checking it out. If you want to stop in live this week, I have a free trial. There is more information available in the podcast episode comments from yesterday. We'll give you all of the login information. Up to 34 episodes now on the podcast, 1172 total on the downloads, including 2 episodes yesterday. So expecting to pick up some steam. Also on ontimeontargetnow.com, I do have some swag starting to populate up from the online store. All right, let's get into investing for the day. Mission objectives: we're going to grow our money, protect our money, and live off our money. Tactical objectives for today: we're going to talk about Facebook stock and Mark Zuckerberg. Again, 4 of the big horsemen are going to DC to testify. That's tomorrow. So we'll talk about another one of them tomorrow, but again, talking largely antitrust issues kind of stuff. For academic topic of the day, we'll be talking about expense ratios. Again, these are associated with index funds, which are a lot cheaper than mutual funds, which have a 12b1 fee, which is generally double the size of the expense ratio. So that's what we'll be talking about for there. For as far as our flow for today, we're going to talk long stuff first, then short. We'll get through the market open, go back to wrapping up some short stuff, and then long. From there, we'll do a market review around the world, and we'll also do a headline view of what's in the news today. We do have our social stocks. I see the comment there from Predator. Thank you. Yeah, so there's the big 3, and then pins is Pinterest, 10-cent holdings, and then social if you just want to buy an ETF. Several things are considered social media stocks. Amazon is heavy into that. Not really a social media stock. Zoom was considered in there, but so when I looked at the ETF, I thought that was interesting. But there's kind of your 3 pure plays, if you will, and we'll talk about each of those. As far as contingencies, if you have any issues with hearing me or anything else, Steve at ototnow.com is monitored real time. And as always, standard disclaimers: this is an educational presentation, so do your own due diligence before making changes to your own portfolio. So let's go up to TD Ameritrade. We're going to talk about take a look at the SPY 1 year in review. Again, if you're not familiar with this chart, left to right is 1 year. We have the big move down there from mid-February to March 23rd was the bottom, and then pretty much kind of a straight up move from there, except it's starting to thin out. So we had a V-shaped recovery, and then it started to, you see the AI computer generated lines up there for those trends. So the trend is certainly tapering off. Had a nice move up yesterday, and then setting up in the red for today. If you look at the volume, we don't talk about the volume a whole lot, but again, volume has kind of dropped off significantly, continues to taper down. I do expect that to pick up towards the election. And then both the RSI and the MACD at the bottom are above their averages, if you will. So that's saying, hey, we've been going up for a while. So right now we're still in the trend. We'll see if we can hold it, especially if we have a big down day, which you never know if today's going to be a big down day or not. All right, let's look at the 5-day review, focusing in on yesterday. Again, yesterday had a nice big move up at the middle, gave it all back midday, and then pretty much straight through all the way to very late in the day. So pretty good day overall. Again, a lot of the positivity yesterday was that there is going to be a relief package. Again, it's deemed the HEALS Act. So right now the Democrats have the HEROES Act out there that's $3 trillion. You have the Republicans out there with $1 trillion HEALS Act, and the answer is probably going to be somewhere in between. But yes, yesterday that was the impetus for the big move up. Now today it's kind of like buy the rumor, sell the news, because today is when you might see some people starting to pick apart that the proposal, and that's when things tend to sell off from there. So we shall see. And Major League Baseball obviously running into some issues. So as the pro sports open up, they stubbed their toe pretty good with some of the players and coaches having COVID. So we shall see how all of that plays out. But again, that's a negative headline. All right, let's look at earnings. Several earnings out this morning. We had Pfizer was a good news story, beat earnings. Then we had McDonald's, bad news story, missed earnings. So that's already on my list for some things we'll take a look at in motion this morning. Also, Harley Davidson, which is Hog. I thought for sure that they would be set up for success as far as earnings going into the COVID season, people getting outside, maybe traveling a little more by bike. No, that didn't happen. They missed earnings pretty bad, so they're setting up as a short on the day. But we'll come back to that here in a little bit. All right, let's take a look at the headlines going around the world. Thank you. All right, here's our futures setting up in the green already. Not too bad, but certainly in the red. And again, we'll see what unveils for us today. In Europe, everything was in red last time I checked, so just barely there. But red across the board. Off into Asia was mixed. U.S. numbers from yesterday. We'll take a look at those. Again, in the green, NASDAQ up largely, so tech had kind of been out of favor and came surging back. So again, bigger move there. But really what to take out all this is go all the way to the right. You'll see the VIX went up yesterday, but still well below the 30 mark is considered increased volatility. All right, over to bonds. Didn't see too much of a move there. And then over to oil, still hanging out above 40, even though it was down a little bit. And last, the precious metals pretty much sold off across the board. Well, actually, sorry, gold showing in the green now. But silver, if you look at that 2% move down, pretty significant. But then again, it did move up like 7% the day prior. So I'm getting a lot of questions about gold and silver. So I'll just cover that right now. You can, up to 10% of your portfolio, put precious metals in there. I favor silver myself because of the price point and the applicability of it over necessarily gold. But gold, I would say, is more common for most investors out there. Just realize it falls on any commodity falls under the greater fool theory, meaning the gold and silver itself doesn't make anything. It's not like a business. So the greater fool theory is you buy your gold at $19.33 an ounce. You need to find a greater fool out there to take it off your hands eventually at a higher price than that. So that's why I don't necessarily like commodities all that much, but I do understand there is a place for them in your portfolio. All right, let's take a look at some. We'll go back to the pre-markets. We'll take a look at the headline review. The two individuals that you're seeing right there are the CEOs of Google and Apple. Apple we talked about yesterday, Google we'll talk about tomorrow, and Facebook we'll talk about today. And again, the fourth one that's showing up in Congress is going to be Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos. Okay. And again, all the fight there, it'll be setting up today. And again, interview tomorrow is largely antitrust. How big can the country allow these companies to get? All right. Bill Gates been in the news talking a lot lately. As far as, he got a lot of bad press about he's trying to put a chip in everybody with the virus. Well, it's like we already have our phones, so it's not like we really need chipped as our individuals because they can track us through that. But yeah, a lot of good news out there as far as, substantial reduction in the death rate and vaccines that should work, that sort of thing. All right. Tesla caught a downgrade. Looking on another screen right now, they're selling off a little bit. We shall see. And then the coronavirus relief plan, here's what's in it. Kind of the bit most people ask right away about, what am I going to get, right? So the same 1,200 checks, same income level, that sort of thing is what we're expecting. And then, of course, there's going to be a lot more focused on local governments, schools, education, that sort of thing. All right, but we'll get into that more as it unfolds during the week. All right. There are concerns about the dollar. Again, that's another way to hide out and protect yourself is being in precious metals. Again, not for me, but that's a thought out there. Shopify was upgraded. Tesla was downgraded as far as the analyst calls. So yeah, benefits for Bill Gates there. Benefit generally outweighs the cost for kids in school. Obviously, that is different everywhere, and everybody's battling what should be done there. No answers here, but we'll see. Certainly, the kids not being in school could have a long-term impact. All right, we're dealing with this thing forever as far as the coronavirus. That could be true, kind of like the flu. There's your Shopify upgrade, and let's continue up. Take a look at a few more headlines. Home housing market has been strong. There you see the McDonald's number. Revenue fell 30%. Predator, I see you in the chat there talking about the drive-through. Yeah, that's true, but I guess it'd be a queuing theory kind of operation on what do their numbers look like, even if they went, from open to close or around the clock with drive-through only. Would they be able to make their numbers? That sort of thing. All right, and then Pfizer rising better than expected earnings, and of course they are getting a bunch of money dumped in. Yes, queuing theory from the good old days is industrial engineering. That's right. All right, let's take a look at Facebook stock now before we transition over to our big board. So it's 10 minutes after. We're transitioning to long for those following along. So there's your Facebook stock up to around 220 at the beginning of the year, sold off down to 140, and then pretty quick to recover up to the 220 there. Kind of stalled out between that 220 to 250 level. So there's obviously a lot of negativity associated with Facebook stock. It's one of those few stocks where I have people call me up and actually ask, do I have that in my portfolio? And I don't want it in my portfolio. So I end up selling it sometimes. When you look at the pros of it, it is the easiest by far for a small business owner like myself to be able to click and put out a bunch of ads. I can focus those ads on the 35 to 65 year old, 100K and above kind of folks, because they have all that information. So it's easy to target demographics with one click, if you will, of the mouse. And once you have your credit card set up and everything, it happens that fast. So it's really pretty impressive what they can do. You take that in the aggregate, and that's just a ton of money flowing in. The negative side is obviously there are many people that have privacy concerns. So that's an anti-Facebook thing. And then secondarily, there are advertisers that have been pulling their budgets because of the handling of hate crimes, hate speech, that sort of thing. And really the role of social media is to be discussed, and I'm sure Congress will talk about this, as far as, are they supposed to be policing that content? Is that the expectation? That sort of thing. So they'll continue to grapple with that. But right now, negativity has kind of stalled out the stock. I don't think it has a lot of downside just because of the revenue dollars that comes in through advertising. So we shall see. All right, we'll take it over to the Schwab big board, if you will. This is the Schwab Street Smart Advisor Edge, where you're looking at all 6 names we talked about earlier. Upper left is Facebook. Murray talked about those folks. And so we don't need to talk about them anymore. Twitter and Snapchat are the other 2 that are the most recognized of the bunch. So Twitter is all over the map. And again, they just had the big hacking scandal where I forget the exact numbers, but a lot of accounts were hacked. Same thing with hate speech and policing and what's the role, those sorts of things. Yeah, policing content. Yeah, that would not be a fun job. Be like working in the audit department at Sears or something like that. So all the way down to 20, doubled pretty much all up to 40, and has sold off since then. We'll kind of wait and see. I do not invest in Twitter, so not real thrilled, and I don't like their advertising. I'm on Twitter now, and follow me at Steve Anchorstar, but I just don't like their advertising. It's not quite as effective as Facebook, in my opinion. All right, the next one is Snapchat. Snapchat went all the way down to basically $5 and has bounced significantly from there. So if you are a believer in Snapchat and its CEO, Evan Spiegel, then you've been rewarded handsomely for it. However, if you take it all the way back to the IPO, I don't know that it's made any money. And as far as profitability, they're one of those folks that they spend more than they have coming in. So not profitable, not my cup of tea. I mean, the filters are cute, but I don't see it as a good forum for advertising as well. And Facebook users, largely the older crowd. Twitter users, you could say more advanced crowd. That's a judgment. But yeah, a little more open to being mature crowd, if you will. And then Snapchat, of course, is now targeting a much younger demographic. So again, who's got the money? The older folks. So tough call. All right, next one is Pinterest. I honestly didn't know this was a public company until I looked it up this morning. I would say I've been on Pinterest. I have an account. I never use it, and I went on there just to kind of look at the format of it, and I don't like it for advertising. So I think it's pretty much gonna kind of die off over time. So I wouldn't touch it. But yeah, I hear you there, Predator, about the Facebook trying to buy Snap, and interesting the Snap, deciding not to go with that, right? Because Instagram did, Snap didn't, and we'll see. The story's still out. But you're right, there's a good episode on that in Business Wars if you ever want to listen to a cool podcast that talks about some of those things. And then the last one we'll talk about there for individuals is Tencent Holdings. You've heard me talk about this name several times. I was in it early and then have been out of it because of the U.S.-China relations. So I have a little bit in the book, but not much, and it's been on fire. Again, Tencent Holdings is a conglomerate that has several things. WeChat, since we're on the social media aspect of it, WeChat is one of them, to where it's larger than all the other messaging things put together. So pretty impressive that they own that, as well as they own Fortnite, which is made by Epic Games, and Tencent Holding owns 40% of that. So they kind of have their hands in a lot of different things. I don't know when a good point, maybe after the election, if if Biden wins, then the U.S.-China stocks might be safe. Right now, Alibaba is pretty much the only one that I use out there. And the last one we'll talk about is Social, the ETF. Again, there was a lot of stuff in here that I wouldn't consider social. Zoom Media, I guess there's an aspect to it. Amazon was like their top 3 holding, so I'm not really sure I'd consider that social media. But obviously, their charter's written as such where they can bring in a bunch of those names, and a lot of those names have been on fire. So you can see that the ETF has also been on fire. So pretty nice move up there. Maybe I could buy that the theme from work from home is we need to use all these other platforms to continue to be social creatures, which we are. So I could buy that. It stalled there a little bit. I would have to get into it to really see if that's something that is really viable. So, all right. So let's go to the short names. We'll take a look again here. First of all, at McDonald's, MCD. All right, they closed at 201, only gapping down maybe a percent and a half there. So not as big a move as they had earlier, if you will. Again, 30% revenue cut. That's pretty significant. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's look at Pfizer long. Again, they're part of Operation Warp Speed, so a lot of money flowing in. It does trade on coronavirus news anyway, and they beat earnings. So how about that? Closed at 37.5 all the way up to 38.5. So backing that out, looks like 39.5 is their most recent high. So maybe might have some room to run higher. I would not necessarily want that, and the futures are in the red, so if the market does stay red, that's going to be tough for long. And the next one we'll look at is Harley Davidson, HOG. Closed at 29.28, down 28.50 now, so that's got that does have some more room to the downside. You can kind of see from the chart there. So again, this would be a short. I'll take a look at that. We'll see if people are going to sell that aggressively today. All right, over to the tabs. 237% out of Eastman Kodak. That's crazy. Let's see what the headline is. We're not touching this, but let's go ahead and pull it up. Drug ingredients. So big government contract that they won there. I don't know. That's crazy. 200 and some percent. All right, moving on to what we're looking for. There's Pfizer up 2.7%. BP down a little bit. BP has been a house of pain along with a lot of the other oils out there. Neo off a little bit. That's a name we cover every day, off 2%. Tripcom, not familiar. I just want to see what they what headline that has out of there. See China's C-Trip. China-based online travel. Okay, C-Trip used to be its own ticker, but that is, maybe there's a new, I don't know. Hard to tell what's going on there. Maybe C-Trip and TCOM are merging. Don't know. But yeah, it's certainly in play. Yeah, taking them private, but who's taking whom private, right? So, all right, the next tab, let's see what we got here. Again, for those who are joining in for the first time, looking for 100,000 in volume is what we need to be able to have enough price movement there, as well as our particular strategy, gap and go. We're looking for stocks that go either gap up or gap down, 5 to 10%, and then taking them in that same direction is what we're looking for. All right, Polaris, let's see what the headline is there. A little bit low on the volume. Okay, it's an earnings beat, and they guided up. So that certainly meets our numbers. So we'll take a look at PII long on earnings. All right. Shopify, let's go ahead and check that out. Pretty high price point for doing any trading, but this would be a long, and again, it got an upgrade today. So if you're to take something like this, you're looking at a $10, $20 type of stop that you'd have to put in. So that would be difficult to get that kind of move. All right, let's take a look at the next tab, the decliners. Tesla meets the numbers as far as volume. I'm not sure. They got a big downgrade today. We'll keep an eye on it. That would be tough to short that name. I've tried and failed several times, but I may try it one more time. So down 2%. It's on a downgrade. We'll take a look at that. Amazon, no, we're not shorting Amazon. Let's look at that EDU. I'm not familiar. New Oriental Education. Okay, they missed earnings. All right, let's go ahead and back the chart out a little bit. So 149 down to 134. Okay, so they have a lot of room to run to the downside. So a little light on volume, but we'll keep an eye on it. EDU short on earnings. All right, let's take a look at the next tab. A lot of trading vehicles in here. We're not going to touch those. Natural gas all the way down at the bottoms up. Click on LAC, lithium. A little light on volume. Elon Musk was talking about lithium last night. That's why I wonder why this is in play. Run up an awfully lot. Don't think I could take that long here. All right, let's take a look at the last one. There's TCOM again. I'll put it in the notes. It's not something I would take. TCOM long. All right, let's see. Altimmune, let's check that out. ALT. Again, this would be a long, kind of like that entry point there, since it's dropped basically 2/3 in about 10 days. Nothing to really go off as far as the headlines, but ALT long. Certainly the chart set up beautifully. All right, we got 3M popping up in the chat as a short, so let's look at 3M. All right, closed at 163, down to 159. I want to say this was earnings. Profit misses. Yeah, gap down 3% there on earnings. All right. So 3M short. All right, I do like that chart for a short. All right, let's see what else we've got. WIMI, let's take a look. Hologram company. Again, this would be a long, boy, that thing is sold off. Look at yesterday, went down from 1050 down to 7, where'd it close? 729, wow, 30%. You would generally take that as a continuation, so you would take it short, even though it's gapping up on volume. So I'm actually going to put it in my notes just because I want to see if it works as a continuation. WIMI short. Again, do not know what they do, but we don't need to because the numbers are there. All right, let's go ahead and set up our big screen so we can get rid of that and go up to the setting up our board for TD Ameritrade. We got 3M going up there for Predator. I'm taking a look at either HOG or Tesla short. All right, let's go back to and check. We're going to check the futures on another screen. And if you can set up the big board up here. So setting up my stuff, getting ready for the open. All right, Tesla, let's see. 1502 closed yesterday, 1539. So a little bit of a gap down, a lot of congestion there. All right, hogs at 2812. Yeah, it'd be a 60-cent stop to get above the congestion. Back out hog a little bit again, if you would, for me. All right, so it's run-ups in the past, what, 4 days from 27.66. Just don't know if it has the downside to it. So I will take Tesla as far as my trade. So we'll go Tesla short. We'll do a $10 stop. That's tighter than I want, but I also want to be able to get to the 30. Yes, I have not shorted Tesla enough yet to see why this is a bad plan. So yeah, Tesla short, we use a $10 stop, and we will go in at the open and out at 5 minutes. We'll see if we can get a quick move down out of it. And you're right, people tend to buy a lot of Tesla. So I'm in at the open. Predator's in it too. Anybody else want to hop in there with your trade? You've got 1 minute to do so. Let's, instead of hog, let's check out Luckin in the middle screen. So see what Luckin's up to today. Okay, 248. And then look at Blink real quick. I'm looking around at names that are generally in play. 725. All right. And then let's look at that EDU name. Again, that was a short on light volume. And then WIMI. Again, also short and light volume. And then, yeah, PII was a long. We'll put that in there. All right, not a lot of movement. So we'll look at, and then put McDonald's in the middle. We'll leave that in there for the open. Tough to short McDonald's, but yes, amateur trade. Thanks for the commentary. All right, here we go. We're in at the open for 1504 for me. So what's that? 1504. Yeah, looks about even on 1504. So with a 10-cent stop, so that would be what, 1474, math on the fly. So it looks to be about an R already. So we'll keep an eye on that. And the upper stop, 1504, is 1514. We'll draw the upper stop in there again. For the new folks, important to get the stop working against you in there right away, so you only risk the 1 R unit. So that's what you can see drawn up there. Short line's the entry, longer line is the stop. All right, McDonald's is backing up, so almost over $1 there is that kind of move up. And let's look at the overall market. Market did a nice big green stripe as the market opens there. So we'll see almost back to the green. When you look across the board, Dow Jones down 0.28. NASDAQ 0.2 and S&P down 0.11. So overall, the market did not sell off hard as soon as it opened there. All right, Tesla looking to backing up there, getting close to my stop. So we'll see if I can stay in that trade before the Predator even opens his trade. All right. Let's take a look on the middle screen at Pfizer long. Okay, Pfizer selling off about 30 cents or so there at the open. Still in the green on the day. Let's see, we talked about hog. Let's go hog short. That would have worked nice. They're already down $1 from the well, not quite $1 from the entry. So down to that 7.8% or so. Nice big volume numbers there. So I like that out of hog. That appears to have at least working so far. PII was a long. So we'll process that for a second. All right, as far as we just started minute 2, so let's give Predator his entry there. 155.86 looks to be about right. Yeah, Elon Musk is always buying shares. So it's a 50-cent stop. So let's see, 156.42. Looks like the 3M trade is stopped out. Let me read that again. Short, yep, 50-cent stop in at 2. Yep, so that's dead on the triple M short. And Tesla's up 1R on the short. So maybe all of the hate speech showing up in the chat is helping me out on my trade. We shall see. All right. Well, we'll let 3M cook there. That's an interesting setup. Again, tough for a 50-cent stop at a price point that high on the stock there. But we'll leave it up there. All right, PII was a long based off of earnings. That looks like it's pretty good there. We'll keep up the middle pane here. Shop long off of an upgrade. So again, $1,000 stock, so went up $6 and then dropped 10. So kind of flopping all over the place. Tough to get a trade in on that. Let's see, EDU. This was a short based off of earnings. Did not go short at all. It's actually flipped into the green. Interesting. Tesla backing up again. All right. And then TCOM was that potential takeover play. It was up 10% pre-market. Let's see where TCOM's at. No, look at that. Again, this was a long based off of the merger. Maybe that was a false rumor. So look at that, 30.9 all the way down to That's over $1 move there. You'd have to catch a headline that was up over 10%. Now it's down to 3% up. So don't know what's going on there. Obviously headline related. ALT was a long we were going to take a look at. Not really moving much at all. And then the last one we'll look at is WIMI short. So about 15 cents a travel, certainly not setting up as a short there. So actually as a long, so it's up 5%. Oh, that's right. I said this is the one that fell from 30. Back the chart out a little bit. So there you go. Fell straight down from 30 and then 30% yesterday. So I would expect that to roll over again. So I still think you could take it short here. So zoom in on that on WIMI. So that's largely short covering right there. So you could watch that into the first half an hour here and try to get an entry for it short. I'd let it come back down to about 775 and then you could take it short with a 10-cent stop. So, all right. The minute 5 has closed out. So I get the 1507. So my trade is in the red. So that does not count as far as winning. So no go on Tesla there. All right, let's look at some other names. In the middle, let's look at Luckin again. Not a whole lot of movement. Let's look at BLNK. Yeah, up a little bit. Looks like it sold off there just in the last minute after you talked about it. Let's look at Workhorse WKHS. All right, kind of around the same spot where it opened. Let's look at CCX. Not a lot of movement. How about LCA? All right, and NKLA. So not a lot of movement in the EV space. Oh, there we go. Went up to 34, down to 33. So NKLA has been kind of a hard sell. Again, it's getting downgraded left and right. So until they start producing trucks, it's hard to live up to the hype. Okay, let's go to charts and see what's happening out in everything else. We got Blank up. A couple of psychedelic names. 10-cent holding is one of the ones we talked about earlier is up. DraftKings is up. They sold off pretty hard yesterday based off of the baseball news of coming down there. CCX, we just looked at that. CGC, marijuana name. Callaway Golf, Clickstream up a little bit. All right, let's not a whole lot moving higher in volume. Let's look at the downside. Okay, there's Luckin leading the chart on the downside like it likes to do. There's Newmont Mining, Tesla, Workhorse, Micron, Qualcomm, again, chip fallout from Intel the other day. And then Raytheon down a little bit. Raytheon has been confusing. Raytheon beat earnings today, and they still can't get any love. So hard to know what's going on with Raytheon, and I know that's widely held stock. Okay, let's go ahead and come down to the Chrome. We'll take a look at Mark Zuckerberg and Wikipedia first. So again, Zuckerberg going before Congress tomorrow. Anytime he talks in Congress, it's a little bit of a crapshoot. And of course, he's SNL, Saturday Night Live bait, because he doesn't tend to express himself all that well. But if you saw his social network, you saw kind of how he got the idea to start Facebook and then kind of took it and ran with it, excuse me. With Facebook and what you've seen the transition from what it started as to what he's trying to take it. Again, I told a story in, I think it was a podcast where I told about selling his stock at $33 and buying all back at 34, right? Ran from. There's what the company's trying to do and, bring internet to everybody. We talked about that in some forum. So I think he's got a great vision. I think he's hired well with Sheryl Sandberg as the CEO, which is far more charismatic and able to build confidence. And while he kind of hangs out in the background, so obviously he's a super billionaire from there. Number 7 on the Forbes billionaire list is the kind of the latest thing I see there. Let's go ahead and scroll down. Again, he walked out of Harvard, so you know, he knew enough to be able to leave and run with this dream, and he was right. Started as a coder. You've heard the coding stories where he'll get in the zone and code away forever. You can keep scrolling down. All right, that'll work. As far as philanthropy, he's involved in several different things. So he has given money back to society. So he's doing what you would think billionaires would do. So we can bring that down. We'll start talking about the expense ratio. So the last thing is expense ratio. Again, these are not associated with individual stocks, which you can buy for free, hold for 20 years for free, and then sell for free. So I like that as far as an efficiency perspective. But if you're going to hold an index fund like SOCL, which is the one we talked about earlier today, you're going to pay an expense ratio. Generally anywhere from 0.15% if it's very efficient, all the way up to around 1% if you're in something very specific like Brazil mining companies. If you were in an ETF of something, it'd be very expensive for you to get in because they have to go down there and actually research those sorts of things. So you can see that the formula there, we don't need to really go into that, but it's going to be a little percentage that you peel off again every year. So if you go down here, we'll put components of the expense ratio at the top. Again, 12B1 fee, that's associated with mutual funds. So an advisor who's pushing mutual funds gets a kickback on there. Liked your comment there. I keep glancing over. Yeah, that's pretty low. On hey, your rank on the Forbes billionaire list is somewhere where my podcast ranks on the financial podcast list. Pretty low, but I did find where they have the rankings, so I'll try to crack into the top 200 before they'll give me any love there. So the key takeaways: cost relative to assets. Again, after fee, all performance and stuff is after fees are considered, and then there's several other expense ratios you don't really need to worry about. Obviously, if you have an actively managed fund, that's going to take more people than a basic passive index fund, so that's going to cost a little bit more. All right, so that's all I have for today. Let me review the chat real quick. Everybody's kind of quiet except for the Predator today. Yeah, I love the Social Network movie. I thought that was great. I've seen it probably 5 times. Yeah, AOL, they did have a little kind of like MySpace, right? Gave birth to the whole idea, and then somebody else took it and ran with it. Talked about McDonald's, Snapchat. Yeah, G-Bill Long. There you go. Treasuries. All right, you're on the rise. That's the important part. All right, everybody, thanks for checking in today. And let's see, about 0.5% in the red on the market. So we'll see after yesterday's big green day, I could see us staying in the red today. So that's all I've got for you, and we'll catch up with you next time. Have a good one. Bye.